Hello, beautiful people. Carl and Brendan here from Games, Brains, and a Head-Banging Life, gbhbl.com. And it's the big one. It is the big one. It's our top 25 albums of the year. 2025, that is. So 25 albums each. So you're going to get 50 overall, aside from crossover. We're going to try and keep it tight. Don't worry. We're not going to have like lengthy spiels about every album. We'll probably save that for the top 10. But, we're going to go through 25 each and tell you basically about some of our favorites. It's as tough as it always is. There's incredible releases. We have a system where we have a list that we populate throughout the year of ratings and what's scoring what. And that can often be a good guide. But then it's sometimes not enough because sometimes I look and be like, well, you rated this album really high, but you've not really listened to it since.
Mm.
And why is that and stuff like that. So it can sometimes be a bit messy and sometimes you be like, oh, why is that album not as high as it should be? It's because even though the album review was written back in January and it was rated that highly since then, we don't go back and edit reviews. You can't go back and edit and give it a lower score or a lesser score because maybe it doesn't have the long-term impact you thought it would. So it is what it is. But 25, it's going to be very positive. It's going to be very exciting to hear your 25 and share my 25 as well. And for those that are keeping count, I ran out of hoodies. It turns out I didn't actually have enough hoodies for all the fucking videos. But that's because I initially, when I planned it and thought about it, I didn't plan and wear it during the recap video, which is
Uh,
really dumb because that's the one I mentioned it in. So none of that makes any sense. I did not think this one through. So what I've done is I reverted to finding a long sleeve of none of the bands I'd worn a hoodie of, but I bought from Desert Fest. And it's a Zelenado long sleeve plus a hat from the 1056 show I went to. So there you go. It still sticks. It's just not hoodies anymore.
I'm still wearing Emperor.
Still wearing it. Okay, 25 albums are going to get us started with my 25th album of the year, and it is This Pain Will Serve You by Confessions of a Traitor, released May 16 via Face Down Records. London's are a mighty band, capable of delivering brutish heaviness, but also immense melody, and almost always wrap this up in an anthemic way. Alongside that, it's an album with feeling. There's a lot of emotion in this, and if you're willing to, you can connect to it in unexpected ways. I really like this album. It's given me a lot over the year. So yeah, This Pain Will Save You by Confessions of a Traitor, number 25.
25 for me came out quite recently, actually. Less on the emotion side of things, but it's Blood Red Throne with their album Silkskin, which came out
Mm-hmm.
December the 5th via Soul Seller Records. It's basically extremely heavy, touch of melody, but dark and heavy death metal. Um, so, it's not genre changing, it's not going to change the world, anything like that, but it's fucking good. And it is just that, like, you know what? I just want like a 40-minute blast of like top quality death metal. Like, this is the album to go to.
Yeah, I love that sometimes. Yeah, you don't need game-changing stuff. Sometimes you just need to be good at it.
Yeah.
Kind of applies to my next one as well, because then at number 24 is A Void Within Existence by Abigail Williams, released July 18th via Agonia Records. It's thick with dark atmosphere, unrelentingly intense, and hellaciously harsh. It is Abigail Williams doing what they do best, not reinventing the black and wheel at all, but defining it and showcasing some personal evolution as well, particularly as this is quite narrowed down and focused. 7 tracks of spectacular, brutish brilliance, covered in their usual thick layers of dark atmosphere and morose melody. It's another great album from a great band. Avoid Winning Existence by Abigail Williams, number 24.
24 for me is the album Lost in Darkness and Distance by the band False Gods,
Mm.
which came out on the 25th of July, independently released. Um, Not really a band that kind of sit in a genre exactly. They kind of
Mm.
blend quite a lot of the heavier side of things together, but mostly they kind of achieve their heaviness through, song structure, tone, and emotion rather than sort of speed or, let's be brutal or anything like that. It's a very well written album, very well produced, like tonally, everything like that, and it has a ton of emotional weight behind it as well. So, yeah, number 24, False Gods.
23, Come on Everybody, Let's Do Nothing by the band Ian. That's IAN, as in like Ian Beale from EastEnders, I guess. I hear people say that. I've actually know who the character is. I just never watched the fucking show in it. So like, it always feels weird when I reference something like that. But anyway, the album was released via Human Worth on October 17th. It's a bit drone, a bit of post, lots of noise, experimental rock, metal heaviness. And that kind of sums up the album and Ian generally, but also like it doesn't. It's a 5-track record, which might sound like an EP, except each track is quite huge. An exploration of ugly, addictive, and vibrant sounds. I think they're quite an indescribable band, but my God, it's like you'll be lost in amongst murky darkness, and suddenly you'll see a hand reach out through it. It's a little bit of light, a sense of direction, something to grab onto, and then they're leading you to more explorative places. It's very expressive, maddening music. Yes, my number 23rd is "Come On Everybody, Let's Do Nothing" by Ian. Not Ian Beale, Ian.
Just Ian. Um, Number 23 on my list then is actually it's been a good year in terms of my list for this band. They featured on our 20 live performances as well, but they also released a new album this year, and it's Cryptopsy with
Mm.
their album An Insatiable Violence, which came out on the 20th of June by A Season of Mist. Um, Guys have been doing it a long time. They know what they're doing. They are quite innovative. They've had numerous lineup changes over the years, but they've managed to still pull all of their experience, I guess, that's part of it, talent and skills together to deliver, an aggressive, chaotic and ferocious album, but one that the experience sort of shines through as well, because there is depth to it. There is clever songwriting, inventive structures. So, long, long time in the game doing this. And after all that time, they're still managing to release sort of angry albums that push the boundaries of death metal. This being one of them.
It's a cool record. 22, all the way back in January 31st via APF Records. It's Pylon Cult by Praetorian. Obnoxious as fucking hell. Blending genres and ideas, really disgusting, heavy, cacophony of noise. There's no sugarcoating this really. It's just harsh and heavy, chaotic, but really, really listenable. It's power, but coming from a really hostile place. It's got a malevolence that kind of just gets up close to you and spits and snarls. Yeah, I really dig this record. Yeah, really been enjoy it. Pylon Cult by Praetorian, number 22.
22 for me. Got a lot of these coming up. So we've got Svart Vinter with the album Isvind on the label Non-Serviam Records. So Italian atmospheric black metal. It is atmospheric because their sophomore album came out on the May 30th, so it's been around for a little while now. Album I do listen to a lot, which is why it's in my list. It's atmospheric, but it's definitely on the sort of cold, bleak black metal side of it. There's traditional elements in here, layers of atmosphere kind of around that, but it's harsh, it's cold, it's heavy, dark. And then just elevates itself every now and then, like to like make you not feel sort of too far back in the 90s or anything like that, by just, some of those atmospheric touches that just kind of bring it to now. Very, very clever album, well written, very deep, very intense, and like I said, very cold.
Cool. My next one's warm because it comes from the world of alternative rock and metal. It's My God Has Got a Gun by Vukovi. Another January release, January 24th via Sharp Tone Records. I think this is delightful. This is the sort of thing, when this came away early on in January, I didn't think I'd like this. I thought, okay, they're a very expressive band. They're very unique, very, very styling and eye-catching. But like musically, it's it's quite experimental. But I do like experimental music, and I like alternative music, and I like what a lot of bands are doing that. And I think this is one of the more unique ones out there, particularly as they also like they think live. They think about like how these songs are going to sound live from an anthemic perspective. And there's only a two-piece as well doing incredible stuff. Really relatable music, really, because it's heart and soul as well. There's a lot of passion in the vocals. You really connect to what they do. I really end up digging it. So yeah, that's My God Has Got a Gun by Vukovi, number 21.
Cool. My 21st, probably not surprised it was on the list, maybe surprised that this high up. Or maybe a surprise they're on the list at all. But anyway, it's at the band Avatar and their
Mm.
latest album, Don't Go in the Forest.
Yeah.
Obviously released via Black Waltz. So Avatar, obviously a band I love a lot. I kind of ummed and ahed about this one a little bit for a while because I was like, do I love it as much as I love a lot of their past records and stuff like that? And the answer is it's difficult to kind of balance it. I think Dance Devil Dance was a bit more challenging a release. I feel like this album takes the best elements of Dance Devil Dance and brings some of the past back into it as well. And as I
Hmm.
kind of like wrote about it and started thinking about this album, I remember a point where I started writing down. So I actually wrote here in this is like I was gonna. This has got a ton of great songs in it, and I was like, I'm just gonna some of the catchiest tracks they've ever written in terms of melody and the vocal harmony and the way that they pull the songs together and creativity and quite occasionally oddity, to be honest with you, in some of the strange things that they do. But that's why I love them. And then I started like going, oh, these are some of the catchiest tracks. So I started writing them, and I realized that by the time I was on the eighth one writing it down, I realized like that's like three-quarters of the album, and I hadn't finished
Mm.
writing down the catchiest tracks. I obviously love this album a lot more than I think I do, which is why it kind of ended up in my list. So I think it's I think it's I don't want to be too harsh on Dance Devil Dance because there's a lot of songs on that I like a lot. But I do kind of see this as a bit of a return to form without meaning it to be too harsh on Dance Devil Dance.
Interesting. It really is interesting what's been going on with this band. I feel like they've lost all momentum and they've kind of dropped off to a degree with
Yeah.
the last couple of releases and made me kind of rethink, okay, they might have had their peak already. We shall see. I don't think it's a bad album. Of course, I agree with you. It's got a couple of catchy tunes. I probably need to give it more time.
Yeah.
Number 20, Bioluminescence by Dawn of Ouroboros is my 20th release. Released March 7th via Prosthetic Records. Yeah, this is a marvelous, marvelous release, particularly because it sits on the extreme side. But my God, does it do things that don't fit within the extreme side of metal. It's so impressive because it's so many layers, so creative twists and turns to familiar formulas. You'll hear thinking, well, okay, this is, extreme metal, death metal. Here comes the fast, heavy beat breakdowns and beat downs. And it's like, oh no, here's something a little bit different. Here's a little bit of jazziness. Here's quite alternative rock, peaks and valleys, really explorative. It's very, very fresh. One of the most refreshing albums on this list. I think it's fabulous. It's Bioluminescence by Dawn of Ouroboros, number 20.
20 for me is Dragon Knight's album Legions, which came out way back in January 17th, Scarlet Records. Um, I think back then I probably thought this album would have finished higher, but as the months have gone by, like I would say 50 or 60% of the album is kind of what I go back to now rather than the whole thing, which is why it's kind of worked its way sort of slowly down my list. Um, New band apparently formed by seasoned Finnish metal veterans, as in
Mm,
like they've been doing it a long time, not that
yeah.
somebody's put salt and pepper on them. See, I
That's a
was waiting for
terrible
that joke.
joke. Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of this kind of spiel around it that came across when the album was sent over to us about looking to breathe fresh life into power metal and all that sort of stuff. That's just like marketing spiel. It means very
Yeah.
little and it doesn't do any of that. But what it does do is deliver like very, very good power metal, story melodies, big rhythms, epic orchestrations, catchy choruses, everything that I kind of want and everyone wants if you like power metal. And they released a very, very good version of it with a handful of tracks that I just, I'd never skip if they come on a shuffle.
Cool. Number 19 for me, Death Can Wait by Breaths. Now, Breaths is a solo project by Jason Roberts. And since 2022, I've been reviewing the albums that have come his way. In fact, there's a new one in the email now, which I'll be taking a look at after Christmas. But basically, yeah, quite prolific. Creates music that's right up my street. Shoegaze, black gaze, atmospheric post, drone, all the things I love combined into one. An eclectic mix of genres and generally great releases every single time. But Death Can Wait was different. It was released June 27th. It is eclectic and electric as ever, but my God, I feel like because he's grown as a person, as an artist, and really beginning to refine what he does, this is the most creative and adventurous he's sounded. Breath's Death Can Wait, my 19th favorite album of the year.
The 19th for me is the album Saturnalia by the band slash project Cell Bands, released again also back in January 31st via Avant-Garde Music. I didn't really know anything about Sylvans going into this. We have got reviews for other work by Sylvans on the site, which I think you probably did. I went into this. I fucking love it. I absolutely love it. I think it is just like the most weirdest mental creative sort of theatrical shit that like that you can listen to. It doesn't make an awful lot of sense sometimes when you listen to it. It kind of pulls you in different directions. You're like, I don't know what you're trying to do here, but this is great. I love it. Um, I just think it's very, very, I don't know, kind of visionary in some ways, kind of
Mm.
eccentric in others. But very immersive, quite inspiring to listen to, and very captivating. So I found the whole thing, music. I don't even know how to explain it. At some point, it is pure opera. Like there's and then it's from that into black metal, and then it's a bit like sort of traditional British, like new wave of British heavy metal, and then all of a sudden, we're doing something like almost industrial like, and it is all over the place and mad. But for me, it clicks, man, and
Yeah.
yeah, I find it captivating.
I think music like that, it's like, yeah, it clicks for you. Another person, it'll be like, this is fucking nonsense. Just
Yeah.
how it goes sometimes. I think this next one everybody can agree on. In at number 18, it's Revenant by Recall the Remains. Now, I generally debated about this one because my thing was kind of like, okay, but this is an album filled with a lot of singles that kind of have been released for a while. So it's more of a collection rather than anything else. But I didn't think it's still a release. It's still a debut album. I didn't think it was fair to kind of mark it down for that, which is why it's an 18. Like it's a lot of songs that I'm very familiar with and all that. But hearing it put together on an album, kind of hearing this full body of work from a band that I think this is basically them at a peak now. Like they've hit this phenomenal run, all these releases. Here they are in an album. Boom. This is it now. And as we move on to the next thing, 9 belters showing the variety in the sound, the depth of their songwriting, and of course the talent that exists within this band. When I talk like this, I kind of picture and vision that people who are watching are kind of within our world. So like to me, it's like, well, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. Certainly not telling Brendan anything he doesn't know. Recall the Remains are an amazing band, and Revenant was a great album, a collection of great fucking songs. So it's my 18th album of the year.
Uh, it's kind of two ends of the spectrum, I suppose. For my 18th, I'd like to go from Recording Remains into the so with their 15th album, we've got Amorphous with the album Borderland, which came out on
Mm,
September the 22nd via Rain and Phoenix Music. So significantly into their careers.
yes.
They've been doing that a long time. They know what they're doing. I like Amorphous. I've always quite liked Amorphous. I've never really had any bad things to say about them. I like some stuff more than others. This album to me is just like them just they just know what they're doing, man. Like, do you know what I mean? It feels like decades of refining and reshaping their identity have just brought them to a place where they don't really feel like they have any boundaries left to push. They're just balanced and complete. And that kind of sense of like, we're just amorphous. This is what we do. We're very
Yeah.
good at it. We know what we're doing. Which I imagine is this sort of place that like it must be a dream to hit as a band, like, where you feel like you've pushed every boundary you need to. So you're still going to tweak yourself, still going to slightly evolve and all that, but it's you just doing you. Um, I suppose it's kind of like, maybe not having anything left to prove that, that kind of sense. It's a very, very good album, very, very cohesive and purposeful. Every note and beat being exactly where it's meant to be. It's so undeniably and unmistakably them that I it's strange because in some ways you might say that that could be seen as a negative, right? Which is just like, oh, it's just them doing them,
Yeah, I get what you
but
mean. Yeah.
it's so settled, and I think like it's just a standard that they have for themselves in recent years, where they kind of have their bar, it's their bar, and now what they're trying to do is just maintain it rather than have to kind of like try and reach other bars every year, and that might be harder sometimes of trying to like keep that level of consistent quality going,
Yeah.
but they absolutely achieve it here with Borderland.
Yeah, because if they were getting lazy, then it would reflect in the quality of the music.
Yeah.
Number 17, Ritual Decay by Low Heaven, released August 29th via MNRK Heavy. This has been a long time coming. It's a debut album. One of the most excited of the year initially when it was announced, because my God, everything they'd released at this point, I was just so in love with. The genre bending is some of the best. It's so natural as well. They're so talented because it's like it's mixing everything from the rock and metal into one really clever, really challenging melting pot that is not one thing or the other, but is also recognizably hardcore, metalcore, noise, energy, alternative rock, all of this stuff. But you can kind of just feel so many different things for it. I love this album. Yeah, Ritual Decay by Low Heaven, number 17.
And quite interestingly, my number 17, and I find this quite interesting because I'm not gonna have to say too much about this one because you did just very, very brief a short
Oh,
moment ago. So number 17 for me is Recall the Remains with Revenant. Yeah, I echo what you said. I see this as an album. Again, like you, I know quite a lot of the songs on it. But it is their debut album. And
Yeah,
for a lot of people who haven't heard singles, this might be the introduction into them. And if it is, then they're in for a
lucky
treat. Or if
them.
you haven't yet, then treat yourself and have a crack at it. But Bright Stars, I love it. I think it's a great album. It showcases what they are and what they do musically, and they do a good job of capturing their kind of spirit, I think, and the spirit of their live performances and all that within the record as well. So there we go. Recall the remains.
Cool. Last year we ended up accidentally, I can't remember which band it was, but we somehow, because we don't confer folks beforehand, but last year we somehow managed to have the same band and the same spot. We didn't, that isn't quite it. Who knows? We'll get further down the line, but that was still quite close to have it that
Yeah.
close to each other. In at 16 for me. It's Collapse by Grief Ritual, released via Church Road Records, January 31st. Debut album again, incredible record as well. This was the arrival, all the build to this Collapse, and I think it's one of those that you're just going to come back to over and over again. I know I do. It's the intensity, it's the passion they pour into it, it's the heaviness. It's brutal, but it's also beautiful. It's that light in the darkness, but my God, that darkness is thick. It's their fury about the state of the world just poured into this absolute noisy beast. Yeah, it's another banger album. Collapse by Grief Ritual, number 16.
And 16 for me is the album Evolve 4
By
to
Yacht.
8 by Hjort.
Mm.
Solo project of the V Haze Miasma guitarist Atmosphere, released on January 24th via Inertial Music, which is the same label as well as V Haze Miasma. Um, Very, very beautiful instrumental, melodic, blackened, doomy kind of atmospheric metal. Um, it is genuinely very, very beautiful. It's very immersive. I think if you're a fan of VH's Miasma musically, it will sort of sit nicely with you anyway. But I think it's quite accessible for anyone who's, I don't know, likes music. If you like good music, this is good music. It's very
Yeah.
beautiful at times, dark at times, light at others, very, very emotional and quite hypnotic to listen to. Uh, and that, yeah, we'll see. It may not be the last time
One
Atmosphere
of these days,
features on
yeah.
our list. So
Yeah, it's not a surprise. It's interesting because I actually spent some good amount of time with Hjort on this album as well because of an interview again,
yeah,
like back in March, interviewed Atmosphere under his actual name as well. Because with Hjort, then Hjort goes by his actual name, doesn't he? And it's VH Miasma that he goes by the
The
nickname.
four
Yeah,
band members are different elements within VH's Miasma.
yeah. I think even at the start of the interview, non-recorded, I asked, "How do you want me to refer to you?" And I think, yeah, okay, cool, good album, yeah. Talking about immersive, like hypnotic as well, though, it's Corpse Light by Barrons, released September 12th by Pelagic Records. If you know Pelagic Records, you'll probably know what you're getting into here. And this is an instrumental offering, emphatic, enigmatic instrumental listen that transforms familiar post soundscapes that you'll hear and understand and be able to kind of vibe with, but into something more unique through the power of experimentation. It's basically dynamic ideas that kind of cross between light, darkness, beauty, intensity, and so much more. Barrons' Corpse Light is very, very cool, very special, and it's instrumental only, which makes it a bit of a unique entry in this list. So that's my 15th favorite.
Where am I at? Oh, look, Melodeath. Woohoo. 15th for me is melodic death metal band Buried Realm with the album The Dormant Darkness, which came
Hmm.
out back in April the 4th. Um, I'm not going to try and like oversell the fact that it's a melodic death metal album. It's powerful, it's energetic, it has death metal in it, and it has melody in it. You do hear hints of all of those kind of famous Scandinavian bands, that everyone kind of naturally assumes with the scene, whether it's
Of course.
Soil Work in Flames, Scar Symmetry at the Gates. There's bits of all of that in there. So there's definitely a celebration of the influences of Mellow Death. They do have touches, that make them stand out a bit and be their kind of own edge. But I think to if you were a non-Mellow Death fan, you'd listen to it and go like, "Oh, it's just Mellow Death." If you love melodic death metal, then you're gonna love it because
Yeah.
it is a celebration of it without being an imitation.
Cool. Okay. Number 14 for me. We're in the world of really, really challenging progressive rock and metal. It's From Nothing by Benthos, released April 11th by Inside Out Music. Everything this band does has me on the edge of my seat. There's such a unique entry in this world. Obviously, progressive metal is such a wide term these days. What does it even mean? And often it's just an excuse to be fucking mental. Benthos are mental, but my God, is it different and really captivating stuff. They deliver vibrant shifts in tone and style throughout. It is a expansive record, and it demands you pay attention. Sit back and be engaged. You'll be excited by what you hear, particularly as each shift and each tone change brings something fresh and interesting. But also, I'm not going to lie, it is challenging. If you've not got the patience for it, you won't meet that challenge. You won't want to. But like, if you do, like, you'll end up like me, loving the record, thinking it's one of the most impressive progressive releases of the year. From Nothing by Benthos, my 14th.
14th for me then is Australian. Right, I don't necessarily agree with the classification, but Australian death metal band called Hebefreneki or Hebefrenik. I'm not sure how to
Okay.
pronounce that. The album was called The Cathexis. They really haven't made this one very fucking easy for me. And
No.
the label that came out was a combination of Prince, Cabal, and Brilliant Emperor Records. But anyway, let's get all that out of the way.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
It's a debut album from them, and it's fucking. You'd love it. It's mental. I struggled like when I reviewed the album, and I struggled to really kind of like work out what it's meant to be because at times it's noise, at times it's death metal, like there is structure, there at times. The band's made up of like two members, like one dude on keys, and vocals, and another guy that's kind of doing the guitars, bass, more
Right.
vocals, everything like that. It moves from like almost post melody into industrial music into effects and keys, and then it from that into just grindcore slash extreme metal, and it jumps all over the place to the point where it's challenging to listen to, in all honesty, but brilliant. Like, you listen to it going like, what the fuck? Oh my God, what are they doing now? Oh, this is mental. And you kind of come out the end of it going like, yeah, that was fucking cool. you know. So yeah. Anyway, 14 on my list. That thing I said before that I'm not going to say again, but
No worries. The album cover will be up in the video anyway, so that will do. It's interesting how it flows sometimes because we went from Benthos to that to like, and obviously, I don't think it's a secret that, okay, some of my favorite genres are like leaning towards the drone, the progressive,
hmm.
post and all that kind of thing. But I also sometimes just generally love and can fall in love with a record that keeps it really simple. If you told me beforehand that one of my albums of the year, number 13, in fact, would be what is effectively just hard rock heaviness with groove, I'd have been like, yeah, it must be really good then. Turns out it is. It's March of the Gods by King Kraken, released April 18th. This is a fucking banger. They like the refinement, and it's like, okay, it's like here's a ton of banger tracks, and that's all we need. We're going to focus and make them as good as they can be. We're going to get the riffs perfect. We're going to get the groove. We're going to get choruses. We're also going to show development. We're going to have emotion in it. We're going to have singing. We're going to develop what we did in our original album, our debut album. But then we're going to combine the love of sci-fi and horror, which is right up my street as well. And it just resulted in an album that was like, holy fucking shit, this is really, really good. This is like really, really good. Didn't expect it to be. I expected it to be good because I like Queen Kraken, but like an out in my top 25 and as high as number 13. If you told me that back then, I'd have said not a chance. But here we are. And I'm still listening to it now. Yeah, King Kraken, March of the Gods, number 13.
Number 13 for me then is Ward 16's Identity, released by Earache on July 11th.
Mm,
Obviously, enough about Ward 16. Theatrical rock. Been a long time waiting, I guess, for this next chapter as well. I've always liked Ward 16, loved probably, but this album has clicked with me more than any of the previous albums.
yeah.
In a big way. I think it stretches boundaries that they've already stretched anyway. I think it's got more. aggression at times. It's cleverly written, and that's not to say the stuff previously wasn't, but for whatever reason it is, and I don't always know what the reason is like this album synchronizes with me more so than
Mhm.
even the previous albums, which I both also really, really liked as well. Anyway, there's a couple like some of the songs in this, like for me, are just like they've been almost like daily plays all
Yeah.
the way through, you know. So I love it. I think the quality of the story is great. The closing of the chapter is like it's well closed, and also kind of like piques the excitement and anticipation and interest for like what now?
Yeah.
Like where do we go from here? Um, but even though it's a story and you kind of get the whole full picture, right? If you listen to it end to end, like it's quality enough that you can just pick a song out, pull a song out of it, and it makes perfect sense and kind of pulls you into the world and like slightly mad and crazy world and like kind of has you sitting there. So yeah, for me, more 16's Identity at 13.
It's not my top 25, but I did just want to say a couple of words on that. What I think for me, what makes it a special album, what's particularly notable to me is that, like any other, it is an album of anthems. Whereas before, maybe there's a couple of tracks, normally the singles and all that, you're like, those are the anthems, so to speak, and then there's a lot of intricate storytelling aspects elsewhere. This one
Yeah.
is pretty much wall to wall anthems. You know, it's not anthemic because the day this band starts to. But then you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if they do. But the most insane band in the world is back with the 12th best album of the year, in my opinion. It's Imperial Triumphant with Gold Star. We're back to my world of just here's insane music. Yes, not only is it extreme metal, but it's also freeform jazz. Because why the fuck not, right? It's Imperial Triumphant that they do whatever the hell they want, one of the most creative bands in the entire world. Every new release stands on its own as something special. And don't get me wrong, Gold Star is perhaps where there's times where you could almost argue they kind of scale things back and simplify it. There's definitely been more insane releases, but that's like on their level. Hold us up against anything else, and it's still fucking insane. But my God, what a band. This one I've gone back and forth. It's been in the top 10 and then got knocked out when I've kind of moved things around a little bit and stuff like that. But yeah, every time this band Imperial Trump release something new, I'm like, I'm either going to think this is the best thing ever or I'm finally going to hate an album of theirs. Still waiting to hate one. Ain't happened yet. Gold Star, 12th album of the year.
Uh, right. Sadness and Misery comes next for me at number 12 with the Greek band Euphrosyne, and
Hmm.
their album Morris via Black Lion Records, which came out on March 21st. Categorized as post-black slash doom metal, but it's like a lot of modern music now where genres are blending and crossing quite a bit
Yeah,
here. So you could happily chuck another 4 or 5 categories into that as well. It is a
tell me
debut
about it.
album, very, very clear and apparent that the band have a lot of talent and skill within it and the ability to kind of write emotionally impactful music, which is a very much the focus of this album, with a lot of it sort of focused on a real life story that, I don't want to get the details on it wrong, but if you listen to the album, it's to do with like death in the family and the battling of illness. Um, so it's an emotional topic, and they for a debut album kind of quite openly sort of lay everything kind of out there quite bare, and it is very dark, very gloomy, very miserable, but also extremely heavy and impressive in terms of like the instrumentation, the songwriting and everything like that. So I think it sort of shows signs of like a real sort of top talented band that could theoretically, like a lot of these bands should go on and move into like big things in the future. So like if for me, like it's not an album that, if you're feeling down, don't put it on. If
Okay, yeah,
you're
don't do that
feeling a bit
right.
fragile and you're struggling a little bit, I don't know. Sometimes listening to other people being sad can give you a bit of a boost and like
You're not
make you feel
alone.
like you're not alone. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes. And maybe it's the right one, but the one that like, yeah, it's not going to raise your spirits necessarily, but it will definitely make you feel.
sounds
So
wonderful. Yeah, it's really nice. No, but it's just nice. It's sweet the way you put that at the end, and it's correct. Yeah, you said not feeling alone, isn't it? Yeah, it's
yeah.
music's got the power to do different things. So yeah, um, yeah. Okay, number 11, the last before the top 10. It's The Lost Years by Dream Wake, released August 8th via UNFD. Oh my God. Honestly, you know the whole blending of genres and well, what does anything really mean? Sometimes we've said this before, it starts to get a bit nonsensical.
Yeah.
progressive metalcore. The fuck does that even mean, right? Like, and then I heard Dreamwake, and I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it now. And this is the pushing of metalcore boundaries by utilizing very different elements that just make it sound more progressive, more forward thinking, more developed, and not regressive, which often metalcore can. It's utilizing pop elements. It's using synth, retro synth as well. God, I love what this band does in this record. There's cinematic elements. There's a lot of cinematic elements in this that really give it a theatrical vibe as well. I think it's listen to this album. This was a unique experience maybe for me, but I listened to this album and all I kept thinking was about feelings and about what it makes me feel rather than necessarily what I was hearing a lot of the time. Um, it's so unique. It's such a clever release, and I think it's one of those that really everyone should give a chance to. I think it's one of those that UNFD doesn't quite fit the label as well because you kind of expect what they get. So it's like, okay, maybe that's why people avoid it. Check it out. It's very unique. It's very digestible as well. The Lost Years, Dreamwake, my 11th.
11 for me would be a band that you're very familiar with because it was you that introduced me to this album actually much earlier in the year when we did a reaction to one of their songs.
Ooh,
And this is Thy Kingdom Will Burn and
ooh.
the album The Loss and Redemption by a Scarlet Records. Uh, Finnish melodic death metal band. Um, Probably not traditional melodeath. Modern melodeath, I guess, at a push. Um, but it's very, very good. I think the song that back then when we reacted to it, which was Perpetual Void, which I liked a lot, and that kind of then led me into listening to the album and then like kind of into other songs with actually ended up settling on a song called Forever in Dark as being like my favorite that I kind of go back to the most, but I go back to the album a lot. Think it's very, very strong. I don't really want to categorize it as melodic death metal too much because, like, I think that kind of puts an image in people's minds that says, "Well, I know
Yeah,
exactly what that style is." It's
yeah.
not necessarily that there are elements of that and many other elements as well. So it's quite genre blending again, as a lot of things are these days. But it's a very ambitious, very, very high quality album, and my 11th favorite.
Awesome. All right, let's top 10 this bad boy. And I'm going to keep this so brief because it's a statement that I used in the written review and I love it so much. I'm just going to say it as it is. This is the album Wheeled by the band Hyro, released June 20th via Pelagic Records. And it's simply this: if you've ever heard the statement that music has the power to move you and never understood it, you will now. That's my 10th favorite album of the year, Wheeled by Hyro. Hyro.
Cool. So 10th for me is back to some misery again. Let's have some more misery in this thing. So this is Tribunal with their album Impenitence and Ruin,
Hmm.
Canadian doom band, which so the album came out 18th of April via the label 20 Bucks Spin. Um, the second album, I was a big fan of the first album, which came out a couple of years and also made it into my top 10 back then as well. So I think this is a huge step forward for the band and it should really set them up well. I think the first thing is that they've expanded their lineup significantly, so they're a fuller band now. Whereas back
Cool.
when they released their debut, I think there were just two members in it, maybe three. Whereas now there's like five or six, and they all have different instruments and they all have different elements of it, and that's allowed them to structure the songs around different leads. Like, it doesn't have to be, oh, it's always going to be the cello. Sometimes we can be more drum heavy, sometimes we can be more bass heavy and kind of combine it all. So it's allowed them to expand their songwriting, the probably, even in that, you've got more members of the band, right? You're all sitting down in a room together. There's more ideas there, there's more creativity, all flowing into it. And though it has its heaviness, there is a definite darkness to it all as well. But the mix of vocals harsh and the clean vocals of, from the singer. I can't remember her name, but the singer who also plays the cello in it, like she's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful vocalist. Um, but yeah, anyway, it's a wonderful album. So they're a really, really strong band. It's two albums in a row now from them, and both of them hit my top 10.
Yeah.
So
Oh, see if they make it a third eventually. That's awesome.
yeah.
Okay. If you've watched some of the other videos, the other lists should have gone. Yeah, they will go up before live performances and EPs will definitely go up before the album one does. So you'll probably see at this point now where we have crossovers of bands that we just mentioned, even if they weren't on those lists necessarily, but the names got mentioned in different ways. And we begin with one that's popped up a fair bit already. In at number 9, it is Fleshwork by Pupil Slicer, released November 7th via Prosthetic Records. Listen, this has evolved Pupil Slicer, and that's an exciting thing for me. But it's also experimental. It's got that intensity from the mathcore side, but it's also filled with emotion as well. The passion that Kate offers continues to amaze. But it's the detail within Fleshwood that ensures it will be long lasting. You know, it's those deeper parts. It's the listening and pulling apart the riffs and the guitar sections and the bass lines, some of which are really, really groovy and hooky. And that's where the accessible elements come in as well, because that's the kind of new thing that, combined with, you know, the sharp and complex mathcore edge, gives the whole album a fresher feel. Again, this album has been higher, it's been lower, it's gone back and forth. In the end, I had to make sure it stayed in the top 10. So yeah, it's number 9, Fleshwork by Pupil Slicer.
Uh, Similar story really with my number nine about bands that have come up in the previous videos. So number nine for me is Rivers of Nile with their self-titled Rivers of
Of
Nile.
every video, isn't it? So that's represented every video, I think,
Yeah,
now.
I was going to say that, and then I was like, oh, except for EPs.
Oh, no, but did he even get a mention? We must
We
have
might have
no
spoke
doubt.
about them for a reason. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, Self-titled, the fifth album for the band came out on May the 30th, and for me, it's their most cohesive and fully realized work to date. They've been going. Doesn't sound like a long career when you say 5 albums, but they're not like a band that shows like an album a year. There's significant gaps between some of these albums. They can be quite experimental at times, and some of those experiments haven't always landed with everyone. But here, for me, this is where everything just kind of comes together. Everything clicks, every idea, style, individual strength, just feels unified and purposeful. So yeah, I love it. I think it's a fantastic album, just full of. I don't think it's got a weak song on it.
Yeah. Okay, number 8 for me is Ether by the band Forlorn, released March 28th via Church Road Records. A debut album. This is kind of like them hitting like fruition. This is us arrived using songs, music created way before they were anything, and just building and refining it to where this album could be released and we could all experience and understand what they were doing, in particular the elements to the band that adds the theatrical edge as well, because that's something that actually comes through in the album too. You listen to it, it is dark and deep and dramatic and heavy, but also deeply melodic. It's experimental, which gives it its longevity. I think the fact that there's a ton of variety and ideas going on here while still sitting on the extreme side of things. It's very expressive. I think if you listen to this album and you don't know who Full On are, you will get it. You'll come away going, okay, I think I've got a vibe on what they are now. Whether it's going to be them in the future is another thing. But for now, Ether, Full On, my eighth favorite album of the year.
For me, number eight is the album Children of Eve by the band Nightfall, which is a Greek metal band. Came out on where is it? May the 2nd via Season of Mist. Um, Weirdly, considering this was their 11th studio album, when I wrote the review for this and listened to this for the first time, I didn't really know who they were. And they kind of got delivered in this huge Season of Mist PR pack, like so you're on a big label, 11 albums in, and it was all kind
Yeah.
of headed as this trifecta of Greek kind of metal royalty with Rotting Christ,
Oh,
you know.
yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and I was just like who, like, what? Who? How do I? What? Never even heard of you? Like, come on. And partly it's because of Blind Guardian. Whenever you say the word Nightfall to me, in my head it just goes nah. Yeah. Um, but I loved it. It is, it's quite Rotting Christ. Like if I had to give it a genre, I'd say the Rotting Christ genre, which is like, you know, modern sort of Rotting Christ, I guess, to a degree, which is not really black metal as such, but it's got atmosphere, it's got darkness, it's got groove and hooks and everything like that. Lots of creativity, no filler. I just think for me, it's a very, very balanced album, quite intense, quite not necessarily overly creative. It's a style that it is what it is. But it certainly introduced me to the band and be like, okay, what the fuck? How have I never heard
Mm.
any of these? And the great thing about it is like because it's their 11th album, it's given me this wonderful opportunity to start listening to the back catalog, which I'm also finding I love to. So that's great.
Wow, new favorite band basically discovering this way.
Yeah.
I love that. I do feel like I've been focusing a lot of debut albums because my next one's a debut album as well, and it's Sorrows by the band Coven. Now, this is spelt Cwfen, but it's pronounced Coven, as in Coven, as in like Coven of Witches, that kind of thing. And the music they play is doomy gothic gloom, as I like to call it, but what with beautiful, bright melody and really exciting energy and a daring amount of catchiness. They're quite a unique band, but my God, are they exciting. When this album came away, I was like, oh, this is not what I expected at all. You kind of get an idea of, go, right, it's Doom. But Doom doesn't mean one specific thing. And it's like, oh, it's Gothic Doom. Okay, now I'm getting a bit of an example. Oh, yeah, it's gloomy as well. Okay, right. That makes sense for Goth and Doom. It's got to be gloomy, isn't it? That's like a given. Oh, but also it's like melodic and it's heartfelt and there's emotion in it. But also, you can dance to it. What? That's where we're at, and yeah, I fucking love it. I've basically this band's toured around a bit, and I've missed them each time. Really, really desperate to see them live. Hoping the opportunity arises in 2026. I really want to see this shit live. But yeah, I adore this album. Sorrows by Coven, number seven.
Number seven for me is the German post-black metal band the Weg einer Fright with their album Innern, which is another season of missed record, so two in a row for them there. This is their sixth full length, so I'm definitely focusing on the other side of it. Carl's got the debuts covered. I've got these bands that have been with us
Yeah.
20 years covered. Um, I kind of speak a little bit about this in the songs of the year as well, although in that one specifically about a single song. But it's a very like I categorize it when I wrote the review as more like an experience than a listen. It's very immense in quality, very emotionally honest and beautifully composed. It leaves you feeling quite optimistic and positive, which I think was its design. It's meant to question and it's not meant to bring you down for its post black metal stylings. It's not meant to be a negative album. It's meant to be like life's questions and I don't know, like a self-help guide for how to get through some of them,
Mm.
in musical form. So I do think it's like, it's one of those things you kind of like, if you want to you want to have your big over ear headphones on for and like really, really kind of like listen and immerse yourself in it. But I think it's well, I wrote the words I wrote was the most profound post-black metal album I've heard in years. So
Wow.
there you go.
Well, how interesting, eh? Because my number six also comes from the world of post-black metal. And it's Baal with the fine line between heaven and here, released July 18th via Road to Masochist. This is a band I trust implicitly anyway when it comes to music and delivering post-black metal. I think they create the best stuff in the world as far as that goes. When you hear it as well, it's like it's obviously what it is. It embodies it, but it's also like it's Baal as well. There's nothing quite like what they do. And this is highs and lows of utterly crushing heaviness and emotion, sadness and despair, but also the highs as well that comes with it. That glorious melodies and just feeling of lightness and soaring through the air. Baal absolutely nail it. I think they're one of the best bands in the world in this genre. So yeah, number six, the fine line between heaven and here.
Cool. Right, number six for me then. So this is the album Agony Eternal by a band called Sarustus or
Mm,
Sarastus. Finnish black metal band. This is their third album. They released it on July the 1st via a label called Dominance of Darkness Records.
mm.
So Finnish black metal, Dominance of Darkness. Pack comes across to me. I'm like, okay, cool. Got one image that came with the pack, and it's three dudes, corpse paint and leather jackets, all standing in front of a lake, and it looks kind of like their mum probably took the picture. And I was just like, okay, cool. It's Finnish black metal, man. It should probably at least be harsh
Yeah,
and
you get it.
traditional and
Yeah.
everything like that. Uh, it's fucking amazing. Like every preconceived judgment I'd come up to in my head before I pressed play on a single song was Well, it wasn't completely wrong because it is harsh black metal, but it's not enough because it like it's well, it's just, I was to say it's one of the greatest albums I've heard this year, obviously, because it's the sixth greatest album I've heard this year. Um, it is very, very traditional. It's very, very harsh black metal at its core. Vocally, it's what you're imagining in your head right now. But then there's more to it. There are layers to it. There's actual melody and some atmospheric elements. And this image I'm seeing of the band and like what they're described as is like it's almost like not what I'm hearing on record. And I just found it to be like so well written with a catchiness that's not meant to necessarily exist in that style of music. Which is, I guess, where they were like, look, this is what we are at our core, and then we're just gonna sprinkle it with little like moments of elevation and magic and a guitar melody that maybe shouldn't be there, a sudden change in the tone and a solo or something like that that comes in out of nowhere. And it's just I find it to be superbly creative,
Mm,
and extremely layered, and like the depth to what I thought it was going to be, it just blows me away, like to the point where I've been listening to it so much, but awkwardly because it didn't get released on Apple Music, and I use Apple Music, so I have to switch to either YouTube or Spotify if I want to play it, which I've had to do. And so good is this album that I down and
willingly do
I've
it.
only used Apple Music, but I'm willing to do it. And I'm like, oh, do you know what? I fancy listening to that Sarusa's album, so I close my Apple Music and I open up a different app just for that album, and then I go back. You
Mm.
know. But yeah, I
When was
think it
released
is
on Apple Music?
fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. Making a stand, mate. Black metal against Apple. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. Um, okay, right. Number five. Hey, do you remember in your when in the 10 tracks one, your number two was a one you didn't expect, like it was a bit of an unusual
Mm,
one. We
yeah.
won't say it here in case people haven't watched that video, and I don't want to spoil it, but it was an unexpected. My number five album of the year is one if I generally can't even now I'm like, wait, and I went back and forth that this should be this high, but I just realized I love it so fucking much that it deserves to be here because I think, we get to our top numbers, particularly with the releases this year. It's easy. Someone has predicted, us. This one stands out on my list. It is From Now On by Beauty School, which was released October 3rd via Slam Dunk Records. This to me epitomized modern alternative rock, where it's tender and it's got heartfelt emo tones, but it's also got nostalgic pop punk energy, focuses on being radio rock friendly. It just nails all aspects of that to the point where every single track is just pure solid gold to me. I thoroughly enjoy it. I want to move to it, I want to dance to it. It's made me a huge fan of this band. They're playing Valentine's Day next year in February. I've already got tickets to see another band, and I keep trying to tell my wife we should sack that band off and go see Beauty School. But because she's not a fan, it's kind of not really working, and it feels wrong. Even though we don't celebrate Valentine's Day, it feels wrong to be like, well, look, I really want to go to that gig. You go to that one, and I'll go to this one. That kind of thing. But this to me is the most triumphant rock release of the year. It's as simple as that. Everything that follows this doesn't really fit in that genre, so I can confidently say that. Like the fact this is alternative rock through and through, offering no surprises. You're going to hear everything you've ever known and loved about this genre, the alternative rock world, with emo and pop punk thrown in and mixed up, but all focused on each one as an anthem, played for the radio. Each one could be a fucking single. Incredible stuff by Beauty School. My fifth album of the year from now on.
Cool. I'm going to keep my fifth one quite brief because I feel
Cool.
like if I was gambling, I would say that you're going to speak about it at some point in the next few albums
I think
too.
I know
So,
this one now.
so for me, the fifth is Unself by Conjurer. Obviously 24th October, Nuclear Blast Records. I'll keep it brief. Look, I think it's a bit of a work of art for me. Very, very confident sounding, very comfortable sounding with where they are as a band, but there isn't a weak spot on the album. It is a collection of stunning, intelligent, honest, and emotional tracks. And I'll just leave it at that. Unless you're gonna be like, no, no, I ain't got them in my list, but I'd be
Imagine
very
if they weren't
surprised.
in my top 25. Imagine that. Like crazy, right? They've been
Yeah.
in the top live. In fact, they topped that one, and they're in the tracks as well. So yeah, like yeah, imagine that if they weren't in this, but they might be. We shall see where they end up because they are ahead. But yeah, I'm just really pleased that they've this album has resonated with you to such an extent that
Yeah.
it's this high up in your list.
More so then, and then again, it's no disrespect to anything they've done previously because I've always liked them as a band and I like their previous work. But to me, this is the album that I would say well, I personally definitely clicked with this album more than I have even their past work.
Incredible. Okay, well, my number four one is sticking to type because it is a post rock album. It is a single flower by We Lost at Sea, released July 4th via, hear me out, folks, Bird's Robe, Dunk Records, Translation Lost, and New Noise. Different territories, so a wide array of people because it's We Lost at Sea, and everybody wants a slice of these Australian geniuses. 6 tracks only, but my God, are they 6 huge tracks? Because of course it is. It's We Lost the Sea, but A Single Flower is them at the most textured. Not only experimenting with post as a genre, but experimenting with their definition of it. You're going to hear about it and you're going to recognize post. You're going to recognize post rock, but it's not quite the same regardless. There'll be constant moments where dramatic visual melody meets energized, vibrant rock speed and intensity. It can be heavy, it can be emotional, it can be sad, it can be powerful, it can be poet. And like, I was always under the belief that I didn't think We Lost the Sea would ever be able to top the album Departure Songs, which is arguably the greatest post rock album ever to date, Departure Songs. This isn't better because Departure Songs is untouchable, but this is as close to it as I've gotten. I think it's that fucking good. A Single Flower, We Lost to Sea, my fourth favorite album of the year.
Fourth for me, then. I just noticed that so like, the fifth album was Nuclear Blast, and the fourth was also Nuclear Blast. And I
Ooh.
had like 2 seasons of Mist in a row, so I seem to be doubling up on labels here.
Hmm.
But for me, this one's probably a bit more straightforward and not always my taste, but like musical style. But I love this band, and it is Cabal, and their album Everything Rots, which was released on March the 21st. I don't know what it is like about Cabal that I love so much because stylistically, there's a lot of things that I normally would be like, oh, fucking hell, I don't like this. But
Mm.
I've liked them since their first like couple of albums that came out. I remember reviewing earlier albums of it like on the site, and I loved them too. I don't know what it is about Cabal, but it clicks with me in a big
Clicks with you,
way.
innit? Yeah.
Yeah. And look, it's everything rots. It's heavy, it's ferocious, but it's quite focused in. It's got everything you expect, lots of passion, lots of fire, lots of brutality. They keep the album interesting and fresh on the way through by some good collaborations, some good guests and stuff like that as well. One which you're wearing on your head at the moment. Um, you know, it's just weighty, heavy music, but it's not depressing. It feels cathartic. It feels like a release of anger. It feels like the sort of thing I'd like to be in a pit to, but only if it was an old man, sort of old school pit. I don't want
Yeah.
no fucking two-stepping and none of that bollocks. Just want to get in there and push people around a little bit. But yeah, anyway, I love it. I think it's a phenomenal album.
I do like it, and I do like Cabal as well. It's always interesting. We're just a band that's not doing anything necessarily special, but you just love them, just connect to them.
Yeah, but then to me, because I connect to them, I think they are doing
They are
stuff that's
special, yeah,
special.
yeah. I know what you mean. Okay, well, continue with the nuclear blast run because my number three is yes, it is here now. It is Unself by Conjura, released October 24th. I don't know, like, what do you want me to say, folks? I love this album. It's incredible. For me, the most amazing thing isn't like the melodic progression, nor is it the technical proficiency. It's not the important lyrical content. It's not the brilliant blending of vocal styles or the fact that there's some anthemic touches in this record. It's the fact that with all of that here, and all this evolution, and all this development in Conrad, they are still savage throughout. This album is still incredibly heavy, incredibly dark, incredibly sludgy, incredibly doomy. It can be so, so intense. But that intensity comes with more tears this time, more heart wrenching moments, more downright beautiful sections as well. This has been at number one. It's been at number two. It's been at number five. It's been all over the place. In the end, it settled on number three, just based on what's ahead of it, but it interchangeable. It is a simply phenomenal record. My third favorite of the year, and Self by Contra.
Yeah, we're definitely into that
Yeah.
interchangeable territory here. So third for me is 1914 and the album Viribus Unitus, which is Napalm Records, released on November the 14th. Ukrainian Black and Death and Doom, pretty much veterans of the scene, I suppose, now to a degree. It's their fourth album. For me, it's their most complete, the most. It's expansive to a degree. I mean, they have everything that we kind of know and love about 1914 is still prevalent. It's not like they've taken a drastic change of direction or anything like that. You know, it's extremely heavy, extremely intense, riff heavy, doomy at times, very, very gloomy, capturing the human side of war from a kind of pain, endurance, and little small moments of hope that survive even through the devastation. It's a concept, as most of their albums are to a degree. I suppose this is more of a concept because of the fact that it has these sort of chained songs that make up a larger part of the story. It's very kind of honest, very powerful, and respectful as well to those stories. You know, there's no glorification or anything like that over here. It is just trying to be here the raw, honest truth of what these guys experienced during these times. So yeah, I find it very, very emotional. But what I love as well about it, as much as anything else, is that 1914, I think in that subject matter could just release albums and they would have an impact. You know, they don't
Mhm.
have to change or anything like that. But they're clearly a band that have a mission, or I think they're a band that have a mission and that are trying to break free a little bit of, being shackled to this is just what their style is. I think some of the guest stuff they've got this time around, like having songs with like Aaron Stainthorpe, for example,
Yeah.
which I wouldn't have in the past put as a natural fit.
Mm.
The last song on this album is a completely spoken word melodic song. So they're expanding outside of that. We just do crushing heavy war shit.
Yeah.
They're like, no, no, we're going to be more than that. And I think you can see that growth in here. So it's capturing everything that they do well and just starting to expand out of it a little bit. So I think it's an exciting time to see where 1914 are heading.
I hope so as well, because although we know differently, they often get overshadowed because people who are maybe not reading up much about it and don't know much about them just naturally hear the whole, a heavy metal band doing stuff, concept stuff about war. Isn't that just what Sabaton do? And like,
Yeah.
obviously, night and fucking day, you know?
Yeah, literally. Yeah, one being dark and one being light.
Yeah.
And as I said,
Number two.
light, my light came back
Yeah,
on.
yeah. It
Thank you,
has been
Jesus.
funny in this video to like one moment you look like you're being abducted by aliens, the other it looks like, in a minute like some sort of like conjuring figure is going to come out of the darkness behind you and, put a
It's
hand
like
on his shoulder.
it's like a floating head sometimes, isn't it?
It is a little bit, but it's cool. It's an effect anyway. All right,
Yeah.
number two. Let's wrap this up. Number two. Every time this band releases something, they end up near, not just in the top list, but sometimes near the very top, if not topping it. It is Thumos, and this time we have the Trial of Socrates. Guess you would not believe this. You would not think, right? A 16-track double album that's nearly 2 hours and is about the life, trial, and death of Socrates. You think I don't need that? No, you fucking do. You really think do because it's Thumos, and everything they do is impossibly grand. Released July 4th by Snowwolf Records, their regular label, and for Dire Productions, who do the cassettes as well. This is a staggering achievement for a band that constantly hits the highest of highs. I'm always going to these going, well, I know I'm going to love it because their instrumental mix of post rock, doom, metal, and so much more always nails it. And they do it in such an artistic storytelling way that I always find really fascinating. They craft rich, detailed, immersive instrumental music, and I'm always know I'm going in safe. But it's kind of like, well, okay, I've also heard a lot of what this band does. What if they just play it safe? And so I'm like, yeah, this is really great, but also not necessarily as game changing as the last record was. Every time they do release something that's utterly game changing. Again, this has been number one. It's been number three. It's been number five. In the end, I thought this has to be number two. And that's simply because of what number one is. Even though they're interchangeable, it is the Trial of Socrates by Thumos. My number two album of the year.
Number two for me, probably not a surprise once I say it. And it is my friend Atmosphere is back. And
Oh,
this
of
is
course.
Behaves Miasma and the album Praise Me, Erase Me, released via Inertial Music on the 7th of November. Uh, I love it. Of course I do. It's a statement album for me, 8 expansive tracks that blend patience, power, fragility, fury, melody, menace, just like conflicting, contrasting sides all the way through, constantly playing off of each other. Amazing vocals on the harsh side of it, on the clean side of it, harmonizing between the lead vocalists and the backing singers and everything like everything about this is both huge, but then they manage to also keep it human. For me, it stays away from predictable formulas, even though I know what V Hayes Miasma will do. I
Safe
don't
bet,
think
yeah.
I don't think it's like, oh, I was expecting that all the way through this album. I'm like, oh, okay, that was different. Oh, okay, you're pushing that slightly different. Oh, I'm expecting it to have a really slow build up and it came in quicker, or all of a sudden, I don't know, it's meant to get heavy. This is a bit where it's going to get heavy, but it doesn't. It does something different. And it's so I think they stay away from predictable formulas, and it can be quite a challenging record at times. But I think it's meant to be, and I think that's the point of like music like this. It's not meant to be like a 3 minute long, like verse, chorus, bang, you got it. That's all you're gonna get. It's meant to make you think and like try and understand what message they're trying to deliver and everything like that. And I love that. I like the intelligence of it. I like trying to break them down. I like trying to understand the lyricism. I like the concepts behind it. I like trying to insert my life and my stories into the messaging they're delivering and finding that kind of like synchronization point where I feel almost like they're exclusively talking to me, you know. So yeah, there you go, my second.
Incredible. Okay, then. On to number one for me. This is unique in the sense that the journey for it is unique. Because normally, basically, being the website and all that, we get the emails before and we get the promos and stuff like that. And hey, we hear it way before you lot do in most regards. But there are plenty of bands out there that we either don't have a PR contact for, we're not part of the mailing lists for the label, and so we just don't get the content. Some as we did once before, but they either sacked off the PR or worked for someone else, and we don't have that content. It happens. This number one is a band who simply I heard the album just like everyone else, actually weeks after its release because I had no time, a ton of review commitments, and I was like, well, I don't want to rush this. I'll get to it. And all I kept hearing people tell me it was like the best thing they'd done for a very long time. And like, yeah, it was a return to black in form. Is this sounding familiar? Um, so I was like, right, finally it was time to get to it. And I was like, right, come on, man, put it on. I think I was on my way up to London and I was like, put it on your trip up to London. That way you can get your first listening. And to this point, as the time recording, I still haven't written a review for this because we didn't get it. There's been no review commitments for it.
Yeah.
And I've just been enjoying it as a fucking fan, just like a listener, as like just from that experience. And it topped, still for all of this, ended up topping all of my Spotify wrapped lists. It's Deaf Heaven's Lonely People with Power. The moment I heard it, the first listen through, I was like, oh my fucking Christ, this is going to be the top best album of the year. And it stayed that way since. I probably listened to this album more than any other album this year, and it came out so late as well. It's not like it came out fucking in the first half, it came out in the second half of the year as well. It is that return to black and form that I love, where there was albums where they were just releasing the best black gaze, black in post, atmospheric, heavy music that was detailed and lengthy and complex, and I loved it. Except this is a little bit different in that it's refined. They've cut things down. They're not overdoing it in song length. They're not just drawing things out. They've taken some of the stuff they did in the previous two records, where they went a bit more melodic, a bit more shoegazy and stuff like that, and then just applying that thinking, keeping the anthemic there, anthemic stuff there, but turning the clock back a bit. And I know some people don't really like that and think it's regressive. Not for me. This is the Deaf Heaven I love, and that is why it ended up being my album of the year.
High praise. High praise
Yes.
indeed. Um, it is rare though, you're right, like for well, albums to make our list that we haven't reviewed, right?
Yeah.
Um, number one on my list, we did review, I reviewed, probably not a surprise, but it is Death Above Life by Orbit Culture. Um, that's my top song of the year. I didn't get to, would have probably been top of everything if they'd released an EP and I'd got to see them live. I would have probably been in all of them as well because like this album, like it's it came out on the 3rd of October, so I can't really say it's been the soundtrack for the year, but it came out on the 3rd of October. A lot of these albums that I've got on even in my top 10 came out way earlier than that. And this album has surged past them in terms of plays and either from individual tracks on it or the album overall. So within that 3 month period, it is like, just
It's incredible.
shot past everything. Uh, I love it. I absolutely adore it. I think it's very, very powerful, ambitious record showing confident evolution. It's heavy. And in some ways, it's heavier than previous stuff, but it's got like a richer tone and richer atmosphere and a crisper production, which I think kind of balances that heaviness off. And in a weird way, it's heavier but more accessible because of the way that it's been produced and mixed and everything like that. I think as an album, it's stronger overall, even than very, very strong albums that I love, like Descent, for example, because I
Mm,
think it has more like bangers, sort of back to back bangers. Like I think like Descent has 80, 70% bangers and then 30% that you go like, yeah, they're good songs, but I can like I'll probably skip them in a shuffle or whatever. Whereas this, I think, is just end to end. Every song on it could have been a single. Obviously I had the top song on it. Take the Tales of War is my favorite song of the
yeah.
year. That was the lead single for it. But songs like Inside the Waves, the last song, the clean kind of almost ballad like The Path I Walk, The Storm, Hydra, like it is just a collection of immense music from a band that they're growing rapidly, man. They're
Mm.
growing at pace. Like I don't know how far that will take you. I guess if they continue to expand their sound, then who knows? But for now, like I'm just happy to be on the ride and gonna struggle putting this album down going into next year, man. I need to get into the 2026 album soon, and I'm like, but I just want to play
Mm.
Death Above Life again.
I think this might. Uh, I'd have to check, but this might be one of the rarest times where our number one albums is not even in the others list. E.g., Death
Yeah,
Heaven's not on your list, and Orbit Culture isn't in my list either. I think it's actually probably the most varied lists we've ever kind of put out. There's been times where we've doubled up a lot more, and there's
yeah.
only a handful on this that we've actually done. That's quite unique and quite interesting, really. I guess it speaks volumes about the strength of the scene, I guess, and the music we've been listening to, but I guess it also speaks about our individual tastes. I do think we've got certain defined elements that, like, okay, I'll like this more than you will, and you'll like this more than I will, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and we've spoken in the past as well that like, there is a simple reality of that if you were to listen to the 23 albums of mine that weren't on your list and I was to listen to the 23 of yours that weren't on my list, that we might then have had crossover. But when we're reviewing, the reality of it is that we kind of go down a path, right? I grab that album, I review it, and then I'm looking for the next one. And even though I know you might have given an album 10 out of 10 and I want to listen to it, what we were trying to get that next review out, right?
Yeah,
So you kind of, like you said earlier on, you almost part these to a point where, I mean, for me, it's been easier this year. That's why I've been able to get some of these, like Kingdom Will Burn and stuff into here because of the long drives where I'm like, you know
yeah,
what, I can't write a review while I'm driving. So I
put
can
it
just
on.
stick some of these albums on and listen to them on the way.
It's been an incredible year. Mostly good, I think. There's been a few suspect releases here and there. Obviously, it's not for
Mhm.
that. I just want to mention one in a way. I just really want to get your opinion on one thing before we wrap this up. It's really this because I think probably one of the more interesting years was, I think it might have been 2023, was when Lorna Shore's album kind of didn't quite top both our lists, but we both had it at number
Mhm.
two. We both had a different number one. We both had Lorna Shore at number two, and Lorna Shore that had an album out this year and did not feature in either our top 25. And that's because for me, it's because I think it was all right and it was lazy and nothing special. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's a good album. But what I do think is that there are a couple of songs in it that I think are absolutely fire. That's the thing is like I think Into Oblivion is a fucking amazing song. I
Mm,
listen to that like a lot, but not top 10 a lot, which is why it didn't get into my list.
yeah.
But as an album overall, I think there's a lot of repetitive stuff in it. There's nothing that again, the reality of that album, the Pain Remains album, is that the Pain Remains trilogy I think is of such high quality that it probably makes the rest of the album also more like, oh wow, this is all amazing now. But realistically, any album they do that's the same as that, but doesn't have the Pain Remains trilogy sort of on
Well,
it,
I was
like
going
it's
to
gonna
say,
pale in comparison. I like Lorna Shore, I do, and I think it's okay to have a misstep, and I think this is a misstep. But I don't
no,
think
it's
they're shit. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't buy into this kind of like general idea that like a Lorna Shore are a shit band with no talent because I don't think you make the Pain Remains trilogy or even the songs like Into Oblivion, which I think are very, very strong still. If you haven't got it there, I just put this down as a Maybe lazy, maybe cheating, maybe thinking like, "Do you know what, we'll try and ride the wave by just quickly bashing out another album that's like really, really
Mm.
similar and hope that we can keep the momentum going. And I don't think it's worked for them. And hopefully they'll look at that and go, right, do you know what, back to the drawing board. Let's go back to pushing some boundaries, I hope.
The reason why folks have brought it up is because when I look back at just the last couple of years to see what was roughly number one, either the band hasn't had a new album out, so Underdark haven't had a new album out, or in Conjurer's case, because Pathos topped it one year for me, we've talked about Unsolved. The only other band on those lists that has had a new record out, but I haven't looked into it, is Portal to the goddamn Blood Dimension. Now that topped your
Yes.
list, I think, in 2023.
Yeah.
Have you explored that this year, or is that to come?
Yeah, I haven't listened to it. I haven't
Yeah.
listened to it yet. So I know that they got new music coming out. There's such a small sort of DIY band, it's quite difficult to kind of track it. Like, you know,
Hmm.
um, so yeah, you either hear it through just conversations like this, or I mean, I'll follow them on Facebook, but that's like down to the old algorithm on whether or not it can be bothered to
Exactly
show
why.
it
The
to me
only
or
reason
not.
I know about it, the only reason it popped up, I think, a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I mentioned that to Brendan, but like nothing in the email, nothing like that. So yeah, yeah, but yeah, it's just really to sort of see where things were from
Yeah. I
previous
mean,
releases.
the thing that I thought was quite interesting when I was writing it this year was like it was the first year I felt like where um there was like a coming back round for bands a little bit. Like we'd
Hmm.
reached a point in a cycle where I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 2023, maybe 2022 was the first time I had V Hayes Miasma in my list. And in that year I think it was an EP. Um and they were second or third
Mm.
in my top 10 or whatever number of EPs we were doing at the time. And in that same year, we had the previous 1914 album. And now, a couple of
Yeah,
years later, I've got Behaves Miasma in 1914. And it's like, there's often times like, we don't want it to ever happen, but it's just an unfortunate reality of music these days where you could have 10 of these bands that you've got in your top 25 now may not even feature again, ever again in the future.
yeah.
I'm not saying that would happen, and I hope that will
Oh
never
yeah, yeah,
happen,
for
but
sure.
we hear it, we think these guys are going to be fucking amazing and that sort of stuff, and then where have they gone? They
Yeah,
disappear into the ether. Um, so I really liked the fact that this year I was like seeing these bands coming back around. I was like, oh shit, the band I'd heard for the first time 2, 3 years ago are back with another
yeah,
album, and I love it too. Tribunal or another one, 2 years ago, reviewed their album, wondered, loved it, thought, oh, they could be huge, but I also wondered if they could be because there's only like two members, and how are you gonna, you know, Canadian Doom, is that like really a thing? And one of you on the
yeah,
cello, it sounds like spur of the moment stuff. So then
yeah,
a couple of years down the line, they're back full lineup, doing really, really well on a label this time. The last time it was self-released. And that's kind of cool, right? Like just you see so many bands fall away these days because it's so difficult to, I guess get yourself off the ground and get yourself going and get to the point where you can actually afford to maybe make some music. So
yeah.
it's nice to then hit a point where you go like, oh shit, there are some survivors here.
Checking it. I think that's a great way to wrap this video up as we're hitting an hour and 20 minutes. For those who want to know, that's actually at this point, we've been recording videos for nigh on nearly 5.5 hours. So that's the point where you're going to wrap this up. There is our top 25 albums of the year. 25 for me, 25 for Brendan. You know what to do. If you've got any thoughts on what we've talked about here, share your own opinions. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It does help us out. You can find us at gbhbl.com and across all social media platforms. And if you really want to give us a bit of extra support, please consider buying us a cup of coffee over on our coffee page. Thank you.